All right, so you guys ready to start?
What are we doing?
Mixed bag, yin, yin. So we're gonna start with a half butterfly. Bring the right leg out straight, left foot to the inside of the thigh. And just let your upper body relax forward and down. All of you are regular students, so I'm gonna assume you know what's going on. And we'll be here for 3 minutes. And usually on these outings, I like to ask if anyone has any questions about anything that's come up in their meditation, their yoga practice, if anyone needs any dating advice. I'm your man.
All the answers. I never thought that you would
or hear all those things in one sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you talk about when somebody is really what's triggering your anger?
Yeah, triggering to you?
Yeah, just all the proximity is it's been a year.
Okay.
I know I'm doing it to me, but it doesn't. It feels like it was almost good for a while, and then it's like coming back the feeling of irritation.
Right. So do you have any more? So the more specific it can be, the easier it is for me to answer the question. I understand if you can't be more specific, but if you can come up with like specific situations, like a situation that maybe has happened recently where that may be helpful, but if not, it's okay. I can try and go with what you've given me.
But when they're just like brushing their teeth and it bugs you. Or chewing. Or breathing.
I feel like I don't have my space anymore. Like I feel like my space has been invaded.
Right.
Because I used to have my office to myself, and now I'm sharing it with a very loud man.
Right. Okay.
But it's like cumulative. It's like little things that I'm feeling like heavy about those little things have sort of settled in a heavy way.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't know. There are different things that could be going on from my perspective. So even though ultimately we don't want anything to take our peace and our joy and our, loving presence away from us, we also just have our own particular kind of makeup. And some people are just introverts, and they do need space and time and quiet in order to really feel their best. Let's switch sides. And so one of the things that can happen, especially when we're practicing spirituality, is we can sometimes get very sensitive to when we are our best. So I was speaking with someone the other day about this, how you may all have friends who don't take care of themselves, they don't eat right, they party all the time, and from their perspective they're fine. And you go out and you have one too many glasses of wine and you're like, oh my God, I feel horrible. And you're like, well, I'm the one doing all the yoga. Shouldn't I be the one who, can go out and drink and party and do stuff because I'm so healthy? But what can happen is when you get really healthy, you get really sensitive to the state of your nervous system and how you're feeling. And so it can actually be the case where what you're feeling is like, oh my God, I feel horrible after that night of drinking. Your default is a way better feeling than how most people feel most of the time. And so this can come into play too with these sort of interactions where you may be very, very sensitive about when you're actually at your best and when you're really feeling your best. And so in this instance, you may sense and feel that the situation you're in is suboptimal and that you're feeling irritated, you're not feeling as much peace as you're used to, but it may still be well and way above where you used to be. So I think sometimes we can get overly discouraged or overly critical of ourselves if we're not careful when we feel any kind of irritation or disturbance of our peace, because we're so used to it. And so I think there's nothing wrong with recognizing and knowing maybe what you need to be your best self. At the same time, having said that, we do ultimately, when we find ourselves in situations and with people that are triggering or are suboptimal, and when we do find ourselves in a situation we can't get out of it, right? Maybe we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic and this is just the reality and we can't find another way out of it. Then as I posted a talk a few weeks ago, I think many of you have seen it, there's always an opportunity for growth and learning when there's suffering. So would you say, Laura, that you're suffering in this situation, or would you not go that far? So both legs straight, just fold forward. Are you just aware of like some irritation, but you're not suffering? You're just kind of aware of it being there and you'd rather it not be there, but it's just there? Or are you actually identifying, is your ego actually pulling you into the story and like, this man should not be here right now? And
No, I think it would. I think it did in the past.
Right.
It's not anymore. I think I'm just feeling it, and I'm really aware of it, and it's like teetering on suffering, but it's not. I know the difference. It's not.
Right. Yeah. So then I think that it may be an opportunity for you to deepen your ability to connect with peace, because the peace that passeth all understanding, as it's referred to in the Bible, that's something that is eternal. So eternal means transcending time. It doesn't mean a long time. It means that before there was time and after there is time and during time, it's accessible. So this peace I'm talking about is always there. It's there right now. You could connect with it right now. It's there even when you're working in this uncomfortable situation. The challenge is that while we're working and while we're doing our daily stuff, we're usually distracted enough that we don't think to connect with our peace and our true nature and our loving awareness. And so, someone's loud or someone's irritating us, we feel this irritation, and unless we're really conscious of it, we tend to get sucked into it, and then we can be short with people and we can, snap at people, whatever it is. So from my perspective, you might be being invited to a deeper level of awareness practice, where as you go through your workday, you're being invited to be very aware of the sensations in your body. So can you right now find that sensation in your body, that sense of can you put yourself mentally into that situation and then have your body respond as it would? Can you feel it?
Probably not right now.
Okay. But the next time it happens, see if you can really pinpoint the discomfort and just be like, oh, okay, there it is. And then the minute you've done that, it's an object within the field of awareness, which is what you are. You're not the body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not that sensation. You are the field of awareness. So you're like, okay, this thing is there. Clearly, I'd rather it not be there, but it's there. And I'm okay. I have my peace. And you can feel that. When you are identified as that field of awareness, you can at any point just be like, where's my peace? Oh, there it is. It has nothing to do with that object of irritation, whatever you want to call it. Let's take a rebound. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring our legs in, give them a little squeeze, shake it out, move around a little bit. And then let's hinge up to seated. So half dragonfly is next. You might want to turn to face the side of your mat. Up to you. And then we'll fold over our left leg, grabbing the foot or strap. You want to feel the stretch in your right waist and ribs. Okay? If you don't, you begin to roll or stack your right shoulder over your left shoulder until you feel the stretch, okay? And all of you are experienced enough to know to just let me know if something doesn't feel right, okay? So it says here, Marissa, Topo Chico has been around for 125 years.
Wow, I'm way behind.
You just found out about it.
I'm 46 and a half years old. Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you. Where do I buy that? Is it at like a general
Whole
store,
Foods.
the gas station?
Gas station,
Wow.
Whole Foods, a lot of restaurants have it.
Yeah, Bar Taco. That was where I had it.
It's like one of those things that now that you know about it,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. Your yoga teacher's drinking it.
Because I don't drink, so I wanted something, and my husband came back with that. I was like, "What is this?" He's like, "Just try it." I was like, "I like this."
Yeah, it's great. Any other questions or?
How much do you think, like, I mean, I know we've talked about, like, the, putting obstacles in the way to, have you make a different choice, I guess, on a very basic level, right? So, sometimes I wonder if, like, I'm overthinking stuff like that, but, I mean, just here's just a very simplistic story, and I might be just overthinking, but so I have like a really great like morning schedule. It's really working well for me, and I absolutely love it, and it's it's like just really expanded my like where I'm at, and I just feel really good. And part of it is time, it's, I do this and I do this at this time and this time and this time. Well, so my meditation, my sit time was around like 9 o'clock. And week or like 10 days ago, they started doing construction. And
What?
construction, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of that yin class when that sound was going. So at first, and in that class, I was like, I'm not listening to it. Like I can kind of work around it,
Mm-hmm.
just like not hear it.
Yeah.
And then I just like, now I'm to the point with this construction that I'm like, they're going to be there every day for like a few months. So is that something that's, I feel like it's almost like it was put there to, I'm like, okay, well I can do it an hour earlier, that's fine, you know, and now I have to like shift everything, which is fine, but you know, I don't know. It's messing me up. So I'm like, I could either sit when I sit and listen to the construction, or I can go at 8 before they get there, or maybe even 7. I'm thinking it has to be 7 because I think they'll start at 8.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was thinking about like that class, and it's like, well, is this being put there for me, and why would it be important that I'm doing it at another time, or is it because I'm getting too rigid? Anyway,
So what is your meditation like these days?
it's really been pretty calm. I mean, just, and when I do have kind of when I'm a little more energetic, so to speak, I just see that and
Yeah. So I actually think it might be really good for you to sit with the construction.
okay.
That's just my gut feeling right now. If you were new, and you're not, you've been meditating a long time and you've been doing yoga a long time, then I would say, yeah, switch up your time. But yeah, I think it might be a beneficial and interesting experience for you to just to sit with.
Yeah, I haven't actually made the schedule, the change yet,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been just thinking about it, and I didn't want to overthink it.
Yeah.
No, so thank you. Okay. I'll do
I mean, you know, you can see it's been an interesting thing I've been noticing, you know, with like Maggie and I have talked before about this. You know, meditation's interesting because I think it's really good at helping people to wake up. And I think it's very good, just regular maintenance. But it does seem like for many people, they can reach a point at which it just is very calm and relaxing, but it no longer is pulling up the really deep, dark trigger stuff.
right.
And so unless you've really gotten good with your day becoming your meditation, integrating your meditation, your meditative awareness into your day, into your life, then you can sit there very easily for 20 minutes, an hour, be peaceful and calm, and, you know, think, oh, well, I did my meditation. But the meditation is sort of to cultivate a kind of awareness, and then really the work is to live our lives from that place of awareness. Okay, frog pose.
Well, I definitely feel too that just like my day in general, like I'm not having moments.
Right.
Not like never, but
No. But much less.
much less.
Yeah, good. Beautiful. So frog pose. You guys know this one, right? So yeah, I think it might be, so here's what I would challenge you to do, Barb, is, so you were saying about with that sound on the retreat, like you can tune it out. I'm going to invite you to tune it in So instead of trying to pretend like it's not there, see if you can have peace with it being there without tuning it out. So you're really fully aware of the construction, you're really listening to the construction as part of the now, part of the present moment. You're just sort of accepting it as a part of that tapestry, not as a, trying to let go of any kind of label. It somewhat relates with what Laura was talking about, because we internally, just the human nervous system and makeup isn't going to like those sounds. It just isn't ever going to be like our preferred sound. And like with, it may never be that Laura wants to sit there working with someone, who's loud in the same. I mean, that may never change. It's not. I'm not saying there's something wrong with preferring to meditate without construction versus with.
Yeah, I had this thought. So, like right now, we can hear the birds.
Yeah.
So, like that's my experience. I listen to birds and I really enjoy it, and I, might hear some people talking or whatever. And I thought to myself, well, why is the truck any different?
Exactly.
And so I had that, reflection.
Yeah.
And so, but that's why I was kind of debating about the time change.
So I'll share with you a story from my own experience. When I started at the Zen Center, it was on McClendon and Oakhurst, and that was a pretty busy intersection. So there's almost always cars going by.
Right.
And sometimes they go by and they were like, playing loud music. Other times just the sound of the road. And so a lot of times in those early days, I would just sit there and my meditation was just trying to allow the sound in without labeling it or judging it or trying to color it, just as much as possible making myself disappear. And there was just whatever sounds were around, I became those sounds, or those sounds were all that was there. There was no me listening to the sound, there were just the sounds. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you can try that with the construction. Let's take child pose. See if, because what's happening is you are, maybe suffering's a strong word, but you are preferring there not to be construction. You are preferring to meditate in silence. But what if you get lost? Then there's just whatever's happening there. That's real meditation, right?
I almost laughed because when they started, I was like, freaking really?
Yeah.
Is this that's why I was kind of like, is this a sign? Are you trying to tell me something?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Alan, to keep that conversation I live with someone who is very triggered by his surroundings. A what? He's very triggered by his surroundings. Yeah. So, and very vocal about it. And so to try and not get sucked into that is a challenge.
All right, let's come up into tabletop. Do a little bit of bear pose, marauding bear. And then down dog when you're ready. All right, sleeping swan is next. So right knee toward right wrist, right foot to the left side of the mat. hips down and back, torso forward and down. And we want to feel it the outside of the right hip, okay? Okay, so you live with someone who is very triggered by their surroundings. Is that right?
Correct.
And it's hard for you to not get sucked into that? What do you mean by getting sucked into that?
By his irritation.
Getting irritated by his irritation.
Right.
Right.
It's contagious.
Well, it's the energy. It's like
Yeah.
you get
It
pulled
is
in, and you have to
energy.
consciously, like, be in that moment and feel it. And it's, I mean, I understand that. We all deal with that. It's a relationship when you're with another person.
Well, or you want them to see it the way you see it, and they don't.
Oh, forget about that. Yeah, seriously.
Right.
Nope,
Right.
you don't. That's how you do that. That's how that trick works. Yeah, you can forget about making other people understand you. And it's such a deep human desire, right? We all want to be understood. We all want other people to be like, yes, I get it. And they don't. And it's so frustrating and maddening and triggering and all the other good stuff. But see, I think you guys, again, saw the recent talk about pleasantly surprised instead of disappointed. Like, why not flip that around? Instead of going through your whole life disappointed, oh, they don't get me. Oh, they don't understand me either. This person doesn't understand. What's wrong with everyone? No one understands me. You flip it around when someone actually gets you, you're like, oh, holy cow. Wow, thanks. That's really nice. Someone who actually gets something I'm saying for now. Because the next minute, they're not going to understand you anymore. They're not going to get it. And that's just reality. You know, we all want this Disney, like, you know, our third eyes meet and we just get one another for the rest of our life. Like, forget about it.
Well, your parent has to die at the beginning of the movie, though.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
That's the Disney. Someone always dies.
All right. So that's the deal. That's why none of us are having that experience. Barb's figured it out. It's karmic. If we just could have lost one of our parents at the beginning of the movie, then everyone would understand. So anyway, yeah, you can forget about anyone understanding you, especially on any kind of global level. And, you know, again, when you may have someone in your life who you feel like gets you, and that's a beautiful thing. But it's also questionable whether or not that's really true or not. I mean, you may both think you get one another, but actually in reality, you don't. You just think that you do. Let's switch sides. And then the opposite can also be true. People who you really think you have nothing in common with and who you think don't get you or can never understand you or are nothing like you, if you were to interact with them in the right way, you might be shocked that, oh my God, we are the same. We just have a different background or a different upbringing, or we're coming from a different perspective, you know, whatever it is. So, like Marissa was saying, I call that, the word I use for that is transference, which is, it's just a phenomenon that we all experience all the time. You walk in, or I'll use this example. We've all met someone who is socially awkward, okay? And so most people, when they're around someone who's socially awkward, they feel awkward. And so they don't like being around someone who's socially awkward because they don't like feeling awkward. And so someone who's socially awkward, very often they don't have many friends because most people around them are going to feel awkward because they feel awkward. That's transference. It's just, we have these mirror neurons in our brains, and just if someone's body language is all awkward and uncomfortable. You pick up on that. You feel awkward and uncomfortable. And so you're going to be like, well, I don't want to be around this person. And if I had a dime for every time I meet a yoga teacher who says, you know, who's less experienced than me, or someone who's just went through teacher training or whatever, and they say, how do you deal with that weirdo in class? With that person with the weird energy. That's what they're talking about. That weirdo, that person in the class, their weird energy. How do you keep that energy from getting on you? Whatever it is, you know? And it's like, you don't. But Marissa tipped everybody off on what the answer is. She said, if you're not really aware, and it's very similar to what I said to Laura at the beginning, it's becoming aware of, okay, when I'm around this person, I reckon, like the surface level is, oh, I don't like this person, or this person makes me really nervous, or this person is irritating me, or they're triggering me, or whatever it is. That's the surface level. And the ego's answer is get away from them. Well, that's great if you can. But maybe you're in the middle of a pandemic and you can't. And you're married to the person, which I suspect is the case today in many of these instances.
We need a retreat.
Yeah. I love how diplomatic everyone's. There's this person in my house. I'm not sure how they got there. They're in my office. All right, let's go ahead and come into Sphinx or Seal. We did both sides, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking. So Sphinx or Seal, the back bend. So what Marissa was pointing to there, what I'm going to point to is, you know, and this is applicable across the board. But before I mention this, well, I don't know, I'll probably forget, so we'll see. Remind me where I am if I forget.
Forget what you're not going to tell us.
Yeah, don't let me forget what I haven't yet told you. So there is this great quote, and many of you read this book because we did a book club on it a while ago, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And in that Suzuki Roshi, there's a part where he says, it's natural for us to prefer flowers to dung, right? It's just natural. Like human beings, we would rather smell a flower than smell poop. We would rather be around somebody who's not socially awkward than somebody who is. We would rather, you know, be in nature listening to the birds instead of listening to somebody do construction. That's just, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with enlightenment. But life is such that we cannot avoid awkward people all the time. We cannot avoid uncomfortable situations. We cannot avoid construction. They're just a part of life. And so I want you guys to keep in mind that if you can change the situation, there's nothing wrong with that if you can do so in a compassionate, loving, sane, peaceful way without blaming somebody else. You know, there's nothing wrong with what these other people are doing. There's nothing wrong with the awkward, socially awkward person. There's nothing wrong with the loudmouth in your office. There's nothing wrong with anything. So, you know, we have to be custodians of our own peace and our own joy and our own love. So again, if we can change it peacefully, mindfully, sanely, compassionately, then go ahead, change it. And Barb may decide to do that. She may decide, you know what, like I don't want to fight this fight. I'm just going to change the time that I meditate. No harm done. But I think it might be very interesting, considering where she is with her practice, to just sit with, you know, so I'm kind of inviting her, like, see what happens, try it out, report back, let us know, you know. How does it go? But having said that, we want to know like what to do, and that's Marissa's thing, and I'll get into that. That's what I wanted you guys not to let me forget. So let's come on down and we'll rebound for a moment. Okay, so let's bring our arms out to it like a T, palms down, bend your knees, and just let your feet drop side to side, let your hips release. Okay, and then we'll do a cattail. So bring your left leg to the left. Bring your right leg back, prop your head up on your right hand or elbow. And then bend your right knee, reach back, grab the foot, pull the heel in towards your buttocks.
I want to do a different pose. What's the point? What are we trying to stretch? I have to go way far back to stretch my quad.
We're twisting and trying to open the quad at the same time. You can do another twist if you want. So let's get back to transference. When we're around other people, their state will transfer to us. Now, the more awareness we have, the less affected we are by this it's not to say we're not aware of it. So when I'm around that person with bad energy in yoga class, I'm very aware that they have bad energy. I'm not like, what are you talking about? You know, the person who's socially awkward, the person who isn't calibrated well, whatever it is, I mean, it's obvious to everybody. It doesn't mean I don't feel that. It also doesn't mean that I want to be best friends with this person necessarily. But at this point, I think I generally have enough awareness that I'm aware of the discomfort and I can handle it. I know my true nature is resilient and strong and peaceful. And when you've been practicing long enough and deep enough, you get to the point where you're kind of like the safe haven for people like that. Because you don't change, everyone else changes around them and gets very awkward and uncomfortable, and you don't. And this is also why people who are going through very emotional stuff may start seeking you out. That may have already started happening to some of you, where maybe even strangers, people you barely know, they are like, I don't know why, I just felt like I could talk to you about this thing. And they'll tell you some absolutely like horrific news or whatever, and you're like, well, why are you telling me? But they get the sense that they will not be judged in the same way, and you will not react the same way as other people. And that's, again, what awareness allows us to do. If we have enough awareness, the transference happens, but then it's almost like you're doing their work for them. Because you don't react, then they it's like you transfer back to them peace. They're transferring to you like, oh, can you believe what happened? It's this and that, and oh my God. And then you're like, oh, wow, I'm sorry. And you're saying, peace, it's okay. You'll be okay. Don't worry. And then they're like, oh, wow, I feel better. Let's switch sides. So Nancy, are you meaning to use that leg? Just checking. Sometimes people are doing it on purpose, so I don't want to assume anything, but it's okay. It's okay. You can do it that way if you want. So there's a few stages. The first stage, those of you at home with these loud and annoying strangers in your house who you happen to be married to, again, it always is about us. It's not about them. So if you've been meditating, hopefully you have awareness of your inner life. You begin to try and become more aware of what is, as this person is triggering me or making me feel uncomfortable, where am I feeling that in my body? What is happening? You know, again, can I turn that into simply an object in awareness with enough awareness? I see that as another object, and I don't have to do anything about that object. I don't need to make it go away. I don't need to change it. I don't need to fix it. I can just let that object be there. I know that I am peace. I know that I am resilience. I know that I can handle this and much, much more. You know, in that space, I can see that clearly. Then you begin to become more peaceful and calm. And like I said, there's always transference. So now maybe you begin transferring to these people a sense of peace and a sense of, you know what, I don't want to be quite so loud and stressed out. I'm starting to feel a little bit more calm in your presence. Not consciously, I doubt they'd be consciously aware of that, but perhaps they begin to become a little more quiet, a little more peaceful, and a little more like you. When you really own your true nature and you really own your peace, and you don't give them the power to take that from you, then you begin transferring that to them. And it's pretty much universal that that's what we all really want on a deep level. Consciously, we may not realize that. You know, consciously we might think, no, I want excitement and adventure and all this other stuff, but deep down, we all want peace, joy, and love. It's kind of hardwired into us. And so if you have that, and you're transferring that to your partners and the people that you live with, very often they're going to tune into that, and they're going to want to operate with that more. Okay, saddle pose. And if not saddle, you can do a supported bridge, or you can repeat Sphinx or Seal. You could also do a supported fish if you want, but really it's saddle. If you can do saddle, that's what we're wanting to do. Full saddle pose. Okay? Yeah.
And I know I've heard you say that a lot, but I'm not sure why, where you feel it, or what you do with that information once you find it in your body.
Can you feel your thing now? Well, go ahead and come into the pose, and then just close your eyes and see if you can bring yourself into, maybe remember a situation that happened, or try and create a fictional situation that would make you feel that way, and then describe to us what you're experiencing.
Well, it usually gets very clenchy, very
Okay, but where?
usually somewhere in gut or heart.
So are you feeling that now? Well, next time it happens, call me. You're not really supposed to do anything with it. But there are certain things you can do to help your awareness. So one is stepping back from it, and again, seeing it as an object within awareness. Noticing other things that, okay, this object is there, but I can feel my breath. That object is there, but I hear the birds outside. That object is there, but I can hear music, the music that I'm playing. I can feel the weight of the clothes on my skin. So even though this object, this irritation, object of irritation is there, there's a lot of other things going on. And why don't I focus on one of those other things instead of this thing? We're not trying to block it out. In fact, when we aren't aware of it, like Marissa said, if we aren't aware of it, that's when we get sucked in. That's when we identify with it. When we're unconscious, when we're unaware, we get sucked right into it, and then it makes us, snap at someone, or it makes us start to feel irritated, or whatever it is we do out of that unconsciousness. We know we're not our best selves. So we need to be aware of it. We need to be very aware of it. We need to not act on what it's telling us to do, but it doesn't mean we need to do something about it. The awareness is really ultimately enough. And then what can happen over time is sometimes it can unwind to the point where it just, there's no charge there anymore. We just really don't care either way. Let's go ahead and come on out of this. I'll share with you guys a story while you're in Shavasana. So if you want to do a little counter stretch, go ahead, but we'll make our way into Shavasana, and I'll share with you a story. Okay, so I'm sure you guys are pretty savvy, and you're probably aware of the whole spiritual tourism thing, where you get into yoga and then you have to go to India, and you go to India and then someone says, oh my God, you have to go to Thailand, it's so spiritual, it's so beautiful, and you have all these quote unquote spiritual places that you need to go. So this story I'm sharing is of somebody who had it in their head that they needed to go, that the meditation centers here in the US were not good enough and they weren't serious enough, and they needed to go meditate in Southeast Asia. That's what they had to do. Maybe they had studied with a teacher who'd come from there, I don't know, but they got it in their head that they needed to go to Thailand to meditate. I think it was Thailand. I may be totally messing up where these places are, but just roll with it. So they find a monastery that will bring them on for a few months, let them come and meditate with them for a few months. Save up their money for the plane ticket. They don't need accommodations once they get there. They're living at the monastery. So they get there. They arrive. It's like a zillion degrees. It's super hot and humid. Well, guess what? Monastery doesn't have air conditioning. Monastery is actually in the city. It's not out in the country, some beautiful pasture, nature. And they're doing construction in the city. Plus, they don't have air conditioning. They also don't close the windows because it's just they let everything air out. So the whole time they're there meditating, they're sweating bullets, mosquitoes are biting them, and they're listening to the sound of construction the whole time. This is their Eastern meditation dream. This is what they saved up for. This is what they had been building up for, to have this great meditation experience, this deep meditation experience in Southeast Asia. So needless to say, they learned their lesson. Now, having said that, maybe it was actually a deeper experience because of all the freaking distractions, all the hardships, the mosquitoes, the heat, the noise, all of it. They were thinking they were going to go, again, to some serene place with waterfalls and monks who bowed to them, who were all shaved heads, and everything was going to be so spiritual. That's what their ego had told them meditating in Southeast Asia was going to be. Well, it was nothing like that. And some of the things that we've been talking about here today, like the noise while meditating, heck, you don't need to go to Southeast Asia to get it. You can stay right here and have them do construction right outside your house. Many of you have backyards. You can start meditating outside, and maybe the mosquitoes will come and bite you. And then you don't have to go to Southeast Asia to get that treatment. And we live in Georgia, so it'll be pretty hot pretty soon. All right, let's go ahead and come around. Begin moving, stretching, waking yourself up. At the end of the day, guys, what we're trying to get in touch with is something that's always present. It's present whether there are mosquitoes. It's present whether it's hot or cold. It's present whether it's quiet or loud. It's present whether there are irritated people around us or loud people around us. And it is not disturbed by any of those things. And so, yes, our minds, our nervous systems, our emotions can get stirred by these things. That may never completely change. But the more that we can identify and rest in that other aspect of ourselves, which holds all of that, the more that we can remind ourselves and check in with that and remember that part of ourselves, the more we can give everyone else in our life and ourselves permission to just be what they are. And to see the perfection in that. And to really accept, not only accept, but actually celebrate that. Celebrate the imperfection, the imperfection that is actually perfect in all of us.